The tour begins on July 6th, and I'm going to do a little preview. I'm going to preview mostly the route, and then later on I'll get into some of the riders and predictions. Overall, they have 7 sprint stages, 7 mountain stages, and 5 of those are mountain top finishes. And there's one individual time trial, and that's 27K, and there's also a team time trial at 27K. So it's a pretty climber-friendly course this year. This is what the stages look like week by week, and you can see that the GC action starts with a mountaintop finish on stage 6. So that's nice and early. I like that. There's another mountain finish on stage 14, and then when you look at the end of the race, there's 3 really hard days in a row before that final stage into Paris. So it should be an entertaining stage. There's not too many sprint stages in a row, and it should be interesting throughout. Here we go. Let's look at stage 1. The race starts in Brussels this year with a sprint stage. Pretty straightforward. There's really no way it won't end in a sprint. And this is a chance for the sprinters to wear the yellow jersey. And really, if you look at the next stage is a team time trial, so it may be their only chance throughout the whole race, depending on how that turns out. Stage 2 is the team time trial. It's 27.6K. And personally, I'm not a fan of the team time trials in Grand Tours. I think, I understand that cycling is a team sport, but this just really punishes the guys who are on weaker teams. And one of the things I like to watch is when the guys on weaker teams, kind of overcome their weak team and try to fight against the big guys. And this really puts them at even more of a disadvantage. So I'm not a fan of the team time trials, especially for the second stage. We're all excited to watch the race, and this is kind of a bummer. Stage 3, the race enters France for the first time, and this should be an exciting stage. It's 215K, and in the last 30K, there are 3 different Cat 3 climbs. So it's a really punchy stage, and the last categorized climb is 16K from the finish, and that was 900 meters at 12.2%. So that's a pretty good climb. It should split up the field. Sprinters should be gone. And if you look at the finish line, it's uphill. It's 500 meters at 8%. So this is a stage for like Valverde type of rider, maybe Sagan if he's showing good form still, and maybe Alaphilippe. Here's stage 4. Looks like a stage for the sprinters. It's the second sprint stage of the tour so far. 213.5K for the sprinters. Stage 5, it's a hilly 175.5K stage. And it could be a breakaway, but I don't really think so yet. I think stage 8 is going to be the first breakaway stage, but you never know. Could be good for a breakaway. If not, I would predict a reduced sprint. Looks really good for Sagan if so. Stage 6, and this is a true GC stage during the first week of the race, and I love it. This is exactly what the Giro needed this year in the first week there. And the finishing climb here has been won before by Froome, Nibali, and Fabio Aru. So it's been used 3 times. And interesting fact, each of those 3 times, the guy in yellow at the end of that day went on to win the race overall. So this climb's been used 3 times before, like I said, but this year they added an extra K at the top. And it has stretches of 24% within 100 meters from the finish line. So this is a good, solid climb, and they made it even more difficult this year. Stage 7, this is a long 230K flat stage for the sprinters, but I think we can accept that after the GC action we had yesterday. Stage 8, and this one has breakaway written all over it to me. We had some GC action on stage 6, so that should be settled down a little bit. And the sprinters had a day yesterday, so this is perfect breakaway stage, 200K up and down all day. It's a day for the break. Stage 9 is 170.5K, and they've got that Cat 3 there, which is less than 15 kilometers from the finish. It's 3.6K at 7.2%, so that should be enough to get rid of the sprinters. So this could be another breakaway day because there's another sprint stage coming on stage 10. Stage 10 is 217.5K. There's some small climbs, but nothing too difficult for the sprinters. Should be a sprint day, and the next day is a rest day. Stage 11, and this is 167K, relatively flat, comes after the rest day. It's a perfect sprint stage, and that's good news, I suppose, for the GC guys because they don't have to worry about how they're going to respond after the rest day. They can just relax and get back into the swing of things. Stage 12, and this is 209.5K. There are two Cat 1 climbs towards the end there, but it finishes downhill, so I'm not quite sure what to make of this stage because tomorrow is the time trial, so I don't think we're going to see much GC action here today. Maybe a stage for the breakaway. Stage 13, this is the only individual time trial of the whole race. It's 27.2K, and I expect to see something from maybe Alex Dowsett, maybe Rowan Dennis, or maybe even Wout van Aert here for the time trial. Stage 14, this could be a very exciting day. It's one of those relatively short, could be action-packed stages. It's 117.5K, and it finishes atop the Tourmalet, which you see here. And you should be familiar with this climb because it's been used in the Tour more than any other climb, and that's 82 times altogether. But on the other hand, it's only been used as a finish twice before, and then that last time was in 2010 with Andy Schleck coming through with the victory. So keep in mind the time trial was yesterday. If anyone went too deep yesterday, here we have a short, exciting stage. They could lose some time. Stage 15, and this is 185K. It has three Cat 1 climbs towards the end there. A good GC day comes after a difficult day of the Tourmalet, and the day before that was the time trial. So this is a GC battle, and this here is the final climb. It's 11.8K at 6.9%. Pretty good climb, and the rest day comes after this stage today. Stage 16, and again, after the rest day, we have a sprint day. So the GC guys won't have to worry how they will react to the rest day, and the sprinters get their chance. Everybody should be happy. Stage 17, this is 200K, and you see there's a Cat 3, and that climb is 5.2K at 5.4%. That comes 8.5K from the finish. So another day, I don't really know what to expect. Could be a breakaway day. If you have a really motivated sprinter who hasn't won a sprint yet, perhaps someone like that could win because there's not another sprint day until Paris. This is stage 18, and it's the first of three really tough stages in the mountains to kind of end the race off here. So this one, you see those two HC beasts, the Izoard and the Galibier. Those are two really tough climbs. So it is a disappointment to me that it finishes on a downhill like that, but we do have two uphill finishes to come. Stage 19, and this is another shorter day. It's 126.5K. And you see it's got an HC climb and a Cat 1 towards the end there. And here's the finish. Maybe this is the disappointing part. This climb is 7.4K at 7%, but you see the last 1.5K there that it levels off to less than 3%. So it could be a really explosive, exciting day, or you might see one of those days that's in the middle of two tough stages as well, and you might see guys that are trying to save themselves for stage 20 because that one is a tough one. Stage 20, and this is the last stage before Paris, so it's the last time anyone gets a chance to win the race. And you see it's 130K, somewhat short, and it finishes on this HC climb. It's 33K at 5.5%. And here's the profile of the climb. Like I said, 5.5% for average doesn't sound that bad, but you can see here it's kind of a stair-stepper kind of climb. So if you see all these red parts, those are between 6 and 9%. So most of the climb is still pretty difficult and it's long. It's the last chance for anyone to win. If the race is close, this is going to be just an awesome stage. Stage 21, this is the traditional parade into Paris, and it's been a tough past 3 days or so for the sprinters, and this is what they've been staying in the race for one last chance at sprint victory. So that's the race overall, and I'm looking at the course pretty closely here. I know the riders make the race, but when you look at the course, you get a little better idea of who may have a better chance on a given route. And what you'll notice here is there's not much individual time trial. There's that 127K ITT, but there is the team time trial. And the difference is, it's another 27K. The differences there can be pretty large between a really good team and a really bad team. So I think more of a difference will be made in the team time trial than the individual time trial. And what you see here, like this year, there's no Froome, There's no Dumoulin, so there's really no one to take a huge advantage on that individual time trial. So it's going to come down largely to the team time trial. And then it will come down to the mountains. And then we're going to talk about who are the favorite riders. And I'll get more into what's going to happen overall in the race. With Froome out of the race, there isn't a clear-cut favorite anymore. And, you know, even without Froome, Ineos still has the strongest team, and they have the two highest ranked riders in Thomas and Bernal. But the field is pretty much wide open this year. You can make a case for or against a lot of the riders. For example, we'll start with Thomas. Okay, Thomas, he had a really strong year last year, but he hasn't had that kind of a year this year. And he really needed the Tour de Suisse this year to sort of build up to his form. But then he crashed at the worst possible time. So you think he's their leader? They said he's their leader. Bernal's accepted that, but does he have the same form this year? And if Thomas falters, they have Bernal right behind him, who obviously everyone thinks he's the next big thing. He's going to win a Grand Tour, no doubt. Pencil it in. But he's only raced the Tour de France once. That's his only Grand Tour he's finished, and he's never been the leader of a Grand Tour. So you've seen the route. The last week, they have those 3 hard stages in a row towards the end. Does he have, if it comes down to that, does he have the stamina for those last 3 days? And then we look third on the list is Fuglsang. And he's had the year that Thomas had last year. Really, he's had a really strong spring. He won some classics. He won the Dauphiné. And he's really on good form. But what everyone's saying about him is, okay, he always seems to have a bad day or he crashes out or something. But think about this. That's the same exact thing we were saying about Thomas before last year. So if he puts together the race of his life, he could win it. And then you go on down the list. Everyone has a doubt. You look at Adam Yates, okay? His best result was 4th in 2016. And you know, when you think about the Yates brothers, you think Simon is the better one, and he's been having a rough few years, and I guess that has nothing to do with Adam, but yeah, they're identical genetically, so maybe he should have a tough year too. And then going down the list, you have Richie Porte. Richie Porte is kind of the same thing going for him that Thomas had. Like, he always seems to have something go wrong. But if he puts together the perfect race, you could see him winning it. And then on down the list, we look at Quintana, okay? He's one of those guys, he came strong early and then he hasn't really done much since. And I just don't see him winning. He's been on a decline for a while now. And then you're looking at the French riders. We saw, I guess there was this headline, it's now or never for the French riders. This is their best chance they've had since the 80s, which I actually agree with. And we have Pinot and Bardet. Pinot had a pretty solid Dauphiné, and he's had a pretty good year. And, you know, he's a really good climber, not the best time trial, but we've seen there's only 27K of time trials. But like I said before, that team time trial is really going to hurt him. And then Bardet, same thing. He's going to lose a lot of time in that team time trial. And he hasn't really had a good spring this year like he usually was. But that could be a good or a bad thing. You know, maybe he's coming into form at the right time. You never know. And then Uran, you know, he's been close but not quite for a lot of different times. He was probably the best rider besides Froome for a few years there. But I just don't see it. I think he's kind of past his prime as well. And then you have 2 guys who rode the Giro. You have Landa and Nibali. That was a tough Giro, guys. And last year, I think it was, they had the break for the World Cup, so there was a little extra time. We don't have that this year, so there's been not a whole lot of time to recover. It was a tough Giro. The weather was terrible for a lot of it. And I just think those guys are going to fade in the last week. And then you have Kruijswijk, who is always, I mean, man, when he led the Giro, you thought he could win it. Then he crashed into that snowbank. He is such a strong guy. But ever since then, it's like, you know, I guess we've been wanting more, but haven't really seen it. So there's a lot of guys that you can make a case for them, and you can make a case against them. And you just don't know what's going to happen. There's always crashes. Someone's going to crash out. Someone's going to have bad luck. And it's just, unexpected things are going to happen. If I had to like bet my life on it, I think I would go Bernal because I still think Ineos is the best team and Thomas just isn't in that great of form this year. But here's the problem I have. If Thomas is kind of like there, like within reach of a podium, and Bernal is kind of like there right with him, like third or fourth or whatever, and then Ineos is kind of putting riders behind Thomas and behind Bernal, and then what if Thomas cracks on like stage 18 or something, and then Bernal has all this time to make up, but he doesn't have the team behind him to do it? I just see that kind of thing happening. So my prediction for the race is I'm going to go a different way. My prediction for number one, I'm going Thibaut Pinot. I think French riders, this is their year to do it. I love Pinot. I follow him on Strava as I do a lot of guys, and he is just a monster on Strava. As is Kreuzwig, really, but I mean, he's a likable guy. I know he had that problem with descending earlier in his career, and he's gotten a lot better at it. So I really admire that, and I think this is his year. It's the French year. It's finally going to happen. And then for number two, I'm going to say Thomas. I think he's going to be strong. Obviously, Ineos is strong, but I just don't think he's on the form that he was on last year. So I think he's going to come a little bit short. And then for number three, I say Fuglsang. He's riding the year of his life. I think he's finally going to put together, some times without crashes, but I just don't think it's going to be quite enough because, I mean, he has a strong team, but I just don't think it's going to be enough this year. So I'm pulling for Pinot. That's my pick. French winner 2019. Let's see it.